At times, life breaks you. You're left alone. Nothing goes your way. And you are introduced to suffering. And you shout and you cry, God, where are you? And yet, it seems like he remains silent. So then, what do you do? How do you suffer well? What is suffering?
Welcome to the platform where I talk about everything relevant, topics that resonate, and help you elevate. This is the platform. If you're a new viewer or an occasional viewer, please do subscribe. Your support goes a long way. Thank you.
Welcome to episode 8, How to Suffer Well, Yet Though He Slay Me. So, suffering is anything that makes your life miserable, that counts as suffering, anything that puts you at an ease, that is suffering. So, the thing about suffering is it comes in many different dimensions and in many levels. On a scale of 1 to 10, there's someone who could be suffering at like an 8. Someone may be suffering out of maybe their level of suffering is level 2 and someone's level is level 10. So, for example, for what is level 10 suffering? Let's say that someone's relatives, the whole family just died. In that moment, that could be classified as suffering level number 10. And what is level 1 suffering? Level 1 suffering is when you probably forget your pen on your way to class, or when you forget to open the window on your way out. That could be level 1 suffering. So yes, there are dimensions and levels of suffering, but why do people suffer? So there are so many reasons why people suffer. People suffer because they lack the knowledge that is adequate enough for them to end their misery. People suffer because they choose to continue to suffer. People suffer because, well, I mean, it's a fallen world, and that's why people suffer. That's why there's death. That's why there's pain. Because we live in a fallen world. That's probably the majority of the reasons why people suffer. And the worst type of suffering is when you're suffering and you don't know that you're suffering, lacking the awareness that allows you to actually know that, you know what, this is actually me suffering right now. So yes, there's indeed suffering in this world. That is true. But why are you suffering? Why you specifically? Or why are you suffering? Why are you suffering? At times, for me, I suffer at times because I just suck at being punctual. It's a thing with me. Like, I'm working on it. I think I'm getting better day by day. But it's been a weakness of mine where, like, punctuality wasn't something that I was really good at. But I'm now better at it. If I'm late these days, I'm late by maybe like 3 minutes or 4 minutes within the acceptable range time of being late. But still, it's not good for you to be late. So that's a weakness of mine. So it edified to my suffering at times because I found myself in trouble because I'll be late sometimes, and it ends up affecting every part of your life. For example, there was a moment I had to go for this date. Right. So there is something else. I had to go for this date. Yeah, this was it 3 or 2 years ago? I don't remember now. It must be 3 years ago. I don't remember, to be honest. So I was supposed to meet up with this girl, and I arrived an hour late. I was actually surprised that she was still there. So it was not a good thing for me to be that late. But I did make my life miserable because all the way to like get to that destination, I had to be driving, like a madman. Not in a dangerous way, but I was just like, I was just in a hurry. When someone's driving, you can tell that, what, this person is in a hurry. As much as I was obeying the speed limit, I was still in a hurry. But at the same time, it was no good for me to be late, because I think when you're driving, you should be like mentally at ease. And I don't think I was like mentally at ease at that time, because in my head, I was like, oh shoot, I'm an hour late. What's this person gonna say? But it was a terrible first impression. It's something that happened, at that time. Um, but yeah, I did identify to my misery and to my suffering because I was late. And now I had to explain myself. Had I been earlier, I wouldn't have to explain myself why I was late. To be honest, I started preparing for this date when the person told me that now the and that's not fair at all. If I'm not going back to the moment, I wish I had done better as a person, but I didn't. But what's my point? My point is you shouldn't edify to your misery. And I used to edify to my misery by being late. Because when I was late, I had to explain myself. I had to give an excuse. Even though if it was true, but I don't really believe in excuses. In making excuses. If you really want to get something done, you will get it done no matter what. That's if you wanted to really do it. So I don't really believe in the notion of making excuses. Oh, I mean, they are relevant sometimes, but you should always refrain from making excuses and complaining as all. Recently, I discovered that I don't like it when people complain all the time. I mean, like, complaining is okay. Maybe if you complain like once a month, that's fine. Go maybe twice or 3 times, I don't know. But complaining about the same thing over and over again, I don't think that's a good thing. I find it annoying because, well, you're complaining because you're suffering. But what are you doing about your suffering? Are you doing something to ease your suffering? Or you're just complaining about it? Because complaining won't solve anything. Complaining won't make things better for you because you want to be in a better place. You want to be in a better position than you are now. So how do you do it? You do it by stopping this complaining nature that some people have, or that we all used to have at some point. And then you confront your sufferings. You confront the reason why you are suffering. And so now that we've defined suffering, now you know what suffering is. You now know how I've suffered. The question is, how do you suffer well? How do you actually smile when you're suffering? How do you actually still have joy when you're suffering? How do you actually possess some level of happiness when you're suffering? You suffer well when you know that at the end of everything else, all will be well, everything will be all right. You suffer well when you know that your light afflictions are only temporary, that they are only for a moment and for a short time. You suffer well when you know that you should count it all joy when you go through trials of many kinds, because that strengthens your faith and that strengthens you as a person. You suffer well when you're able to say that, yet though he slay me, still you will trust in him. You suffer well when you know that your Redeemer lives. You suffer well when you know that you are hard pressed on every side, but you are not crushed. You are perplexed, but not in despair. You are persecuted, but not abandoned. You are struck down, but you are not destroyed. That's how you suffer well. But okay, yes, I understand. You might say, oh, Nigel, that's good philosophy and that's good Bible knowledge, you know. But let's be real with one another. What do you do when hell knocks on your door? Like, let's be practical, yeah. How many people can actually say that, yet though he slay me, I will still trust in him? When you're going through when you're going through a big moment, when something unexpected happens in your life, but then you still have to cope. So Job actually presents a perfect scenario where someone is suffering and they were able to actually suffer well, or to some particular degree. So we have Job. So Job loses everything. He loses everything that gave his life meaning. Now that is suffering. Suffering is when things go so wrong that it affects everything that gives your life meaning. That is the true definition of suffering. So we have Job. He suffers. He goes through hell as a person. He's living in hell. Everything that is imagined in his life going right is absolutely going wrong. But yet, he chooses to remain faithful. And then he says that, yet though he slay me, I will still choose to trust in him. So why would Job trust in God in this moment when everything is going wrong? Why is it doing that? Because I mean, if we want to be practical, faith aside and everything aside, that doesn't make sense for you to keep on trusting God when everything is going wrong. Because see, that's the expectation that people have. We think that just because we trust God, it doesn't mean that we don't have to go through trials and tribulations and temptation. And that is not true. We go through those things, but He helps us overcome those things. But those without the knowledge of God, those who don't trust God, when they go through these things, they might potentially sink because they don't have that reality of faith that you have. So Job chooses to continue trusting God. But why does he continue to do that? See, the thing about trust is you can only trust someone that you know. You cannot trust someone that you don't know. So he had a relationship with God that allowed him to actually continue trusting God at this moment because he knew that there was something that God had done before in his life. There was a moment in Job's life before where you were suffering before. But yet, God still showed up for Job. And in that moment, Job could trust God because they had a history where God had showed up for him. Because it doesn't make sense for you to say that I will trust in you when there's no history of trust, when there's no history of a proven track record of trust, when there's no proven track record of something that God had done before, maybe for other people, for Job to actually trust him. Because what if everything that Job had was actually a miracle? Because it's not recorded in the Bible that it was a miracle. We don't know how he got those kids. We don't know how he built those houses. We don't know how he got to where he was, But maybe everything was a miracle. And for him to possess it, he now acknowledged that, wow, indeed God is real. But even though this is taken away, I'll still choose to trust in him because the one who gave me these things is able to do it again. That's where it says that I know that my Redeemer lives. The book of Job is actually interesting. I encourage you to read this. It's an absolute thriller. It's an absolute movie. So I encourage you to read it. So what actually happens when you're suffering? You know. So for Job, see, he's suffering now. And his wife pulls up. The wife comes and she says that curse God and die. Which is absolutely disheartening. I mean, imagine the love of your life telling you to curse God and die. That's how bad things were. They were so bad then. They were so bad that the wife had to say curse God and die. Even though the wife, I believe that she was under the influence of, Satan or a demon or something, you know, um, it still hits me that the wife actually said those words, curse God and die. So imagine how many people actually come to you, in your moment or season of suffering, and they tell you things that are encouraging, things that are disheartening, things that are edifying to your suffering. Because if someone tells you to curse God and die, that is just gonna make you more miserable, and it's just gonna make you it's gonna make you discouraged. That okay, hey, maybe I should actually curse God and die. I mean, like, what am I still fighting for if I can just die? So I do feel for Job in the moment. The love of his life telling to curse God and die. And why would someone curse God? So we have this thing at times it can happen in our lives as well. People can come to us and say words to us that are disheartening. But what do we choose to do in this moment? Do we just listen to the discouragements that are thrown at us? Or do we actually stand up on our feet and say that yet though he slay me, I know that I will keep on trusting him? And having the courage to know that actually my Redeemer lives and there's always a way out. And there is always a way out. You know, if you read your Bible, every time something is seen to be going wrong, it's like God always comes up with a way to just turn the tide, you know, to just change everything that is going on. So no matter how wrong things can be going in your life, no matter where you are, no matter how much you're suffering, man, just know that there's always a way out. If he was able to produce a way out or turn the tide for Job at the end, how much more can he do for you? And when you're suffering at times, it's like God remains silent. I mean, why would someone remain silent when you're suffering? That seems rude. That sounds like you're being ghosted, like no communication at all. Wow, like how do you live with yourself going through that pain? It's a lot to go through. So God remains silent for like 37 chapters because we don't see God speaking to Job for like so many chapters. I don't know if they're 37, but I think they're 37 chapters before God speaks. I think they're 37. It should be 37. So God doesn't speak for like 37 chapters. All this time you wonder where is God when Job is going through this suffering. It seems like he's silent and he just goes to Job. But see, that's the thing about life and hearing from God. See, God is always speaking in every moment and every time. But it's just about what you're looking for him that makes you not find him. So think about this. You might think that God is not speaking to Job for like 37 chapters, which could be true in whatever context you view it from. But God was there every time and every moment for Job because Job had friends. And it's only God who's able to actually give you like the relationships that you need in your life. And those are the friends that showed up for Job. And through this time, I can say that Job was not eating. I'm sure it's something to eat. And that was God providing for him and trying to sustain him. And you know he's suffering, even though the moment that he was told that curse God and die, God still gave Job some strength to actually continue trusting in God that his Redeemer lives, and that even though he's going through a tough moment, he still continue to trust in God. So God is always speaking. It's just a matter of perspective. Because if he created you and if he created all of us and all people, why would he ghost you and he's the one who made you? Why do you remain silent and not make a way out for you when he's the one who made you? That would make him a cruel creator, and he's not a cruel creator. I don't know why this is making me a little bit emotional. But I just feel like so many people go through those things where they're like, God has like ghosted me. Like, why did he make me suffer and stuff like that? And I used to be one of those people who was like, you know what? This God, bro, is just silent at the moment and there's no speaking. But now when I look back, I know that indeed he was speaking. And I now know why Job had the capacity to trust God. Because Paul was not capping when he said that all things work together for the good, for those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. That the days that we have now are nowhere to be compared to the days that are going to come later on. Because through God, we are more than conquerors. He makes us and enables us to do abundantly, to do much more than we are able to do on our own. As if we could ever do anything on our own. So there's so many reasons why people suffer. Some other people suffer because they have micro faith. They just expect things to turn up like in a moment. But it doesn't work like that sometimes. Just for Job as well. Even though he said that, yet I know that my Redeemer lives. Even though he said that, yet though he slay me, I'll still choose to trust in him. Those statements didn't change anything in that moment, in that instant moment. But it took time. As I said in the last episode, greatness takes time. If a string is in a knot, then patience will untie it. At times, it's not about you just having faith, but it's just about you having a little patience. And continuing to trust in God. And knowing that He always give you a way out. But the thing, like I said about trust, you can trust someone you don't know. So the question now becomes, how do you get to know the one who made you? You can read your Bible. That can help. You can speak to people who know about the one who made you. And come into the knowledge of truth. That can help you to actually grow in you being able to trust in God. Some people just suffer because they believe that bad things don't happen just because we trust in God. Well, let me tell you, as Jesus said, in this world you have tribulation. But take heart, for I've overcome this world. He gives us strength to overcome it. And that's why we are able to trust in Him. So, does that mean that there's not going to be trouble? There's going to be trouble. There's going to be tribulation and challenges. But you have to know that by my God, I can run through a troop. And by my God, I can scale over a wall. Because He enables you to do those things. So you just have to know something. You're not the first person to suffer. You're not the first person to go through what you're going through now. Other people have gone through what you're going through now. Maybe they've gone through worse. But they kept on trusting. See, Joseph had to be in prison. We have David. He had to run away and hide in the cave. We have Paul being beaten and being thrown into prison. But I think the most painful one is with Joseph. Your own brothers actually throw you away. That is painful. But when your Redeemer lives, He can take you from the pit to the throne, from the pit into the crown, from the pit into the palace. He's able to do those things. But it just doesn't happen instantly. It takes time sometimes. But if you come away from the pit and it takes you to the palace, even though it takes time, isn't that better than staying in the pit for the rest of your life? But here's the thing. You get to choose and to participate in the plan of the Maker that leads you to the palace. Because if you want to, you can reject the palace. That is your choice. You can deny the plans of the Maker that He has for you. So you always have to remember that Pain is temporary. God is eternal and it never changes. So you have to tie yourself to that which is eternal for you to escape the temporary. Because everything else is fickle, but God never fades. So the more you connect yourself to Him in intimacy, the more you can trust in Him and know that your Redeemer lives. And know that there's always a way out. Even the God incarnate had to suffer. Jesus Himself. He probably suffered more than anyone could ever imagine. Because who goes through so much pain like that and still come out of it? Who goes through that if not for love? But yes, He suffered just for you. And through that, you know that no matter how much you might suffer in your life, there's always a way out. Because no matter how much you suffered, on the third day, He rose again to glory. So yes, it might take time for you to escape your prison. But there's always a way out. It'll not always be like this. This is episode 8. How to suffer well, yet always slay me. Thank you for watching. And thank you for listening.